January school board meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Ms. Shepherd, do you have a recommendation to convene in closed session, please?
I do. I recommend that the Shenandoah County School Board convene a closed meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in order to discuss and consider several personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A14, and to discuss scholastic records involving the discussion or consideration of omission or disciplinary matters concerning any student of any state school system under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A2.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to that effect, please?
I move that the Shenandoah County School Board convene a closed meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in order to discuss and consider several personnel matters involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A14, and to discuss scholastic records involving the discussion or consideration of admission or disciplinary matters concerning any student of any state school system under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A2.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Brooks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes 6-0, and we will hopefully reconvene at 7 p.m. welcome you to our January 2023 school board meeting. We will now reconvene in open session. Do I have a motion from my colleagues to that effect, please?
I move to reconvene in open session.
Thank you, Mr. Gutschall. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barlow. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carried by 6-0. The board is now in open session. The Shenandoah County School Board hereby certifies by roll call vote that the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting, to which the certification resolution applies. And second, only public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting was heard, discussed, or considered by the Shenandoah County School Board. Each member responds "I so certified" when called for by the clerk.
Ms. Walsh? I so certify. Mr. Gutschall?
I so certify.
Mr. Barlow?
I so certify.
Ms. Rooks?
I so certify.
Mr. Keller?
I so certify.
And Mr. Helston?
I so certified. Next, we have the invocation and pledge, and prior to that, on the screen to your left, we have lost 3 former employees. Ms. Virginia Kingery, who drove the school bus for 40 years in the central part of the county, and Glenda F. Loving was a paraprofessional. I don't have the number of years, but we thank her for her service. And finally, Nancy Stickley, who died last week in the northern part. She drove the bus for 42 years and was awarded a safety award from the state or locally for her years of service. So before the invocation, could we bow our heads in memory of these fine former employees and think of their families at this time? Thank you. The invocation, I got this book, I don't know where I got it from, Dear Abby, so you know very well these things are very appropriate. And the title of this one I like to share with you this evening is Children Learn What They Live. If a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with security, he learns to have faith. If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. And finally, if a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in the world. Let us honor our country with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Shepherd would like to say a few words about approving the agenda that you'd like to share with the public as well as board members. Especially board members, maybe the chair at least. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So on the January 3rd school board meeting, there was a little confusion about moving an item from the consent agenda. Any school board member is able to remove an item from the consent agenda. A member may request an item to be removed from the consent agenda prior to the consent agenda being approved. This means that any member who wants to remove or discuss an item can remove that item and vote on it separately. The request does not need a second, it is not discussed, and no vote is taken to remove it from the consent agenda. After the consent agenda is removed, the presiding officer presents the modified consent agenda to the board once again and takes the vote by general consent. The extracted item is added to the regular agenda under the appropriate category for bringing up such items. In our situation last week, a couple weeks ago, the consent agenda item, school board code of conduct, would have been moved to the action agenda.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Any questions from the board members? Okay, proceeding. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Walsh to approve the agenda. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Rutz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carried 6-0. Recognition, Ms. Stratford.
Yes, so I would like to recognize our principals. January 15th through the 21st has been designated as Virginia School Principals Appreciation Week. We would like to recognize our SCPS principals for their dedication to our staff, students, and school community. Serving as a principal is often a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job, and our principals work hard to ensure that our students and staff are safe, supported, and successful. They provide leadership, guidance, and encouragement, inspiration, and so much more. We are incredibly lucky to have such caring and dedicated principals leading our schools. If you see a school principal this week, please thank them.
Okay, any going on? Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Our agenda 2.6, pre-budget public input on the budget for the year 24. It was properly advertised. Public input is scheduled for today, January 12, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the county boardroom of Shenandoah County Government Center, 600 North Main Street, Woodstock, of the Shenandoah County School Board to receive the views of citizens within the school district in accordance with section 22.1-92B of the Code of Virginia regarding the 2022-2023 estimate of monies needed for public schools. The Shenandoah County School Board welcomes public comment during regular meetings and during public hearings. The school board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting or hearing. Each speaker will speak for up to 3 minutes. The board generally allows up to 60 for public comments on the agenda and non-agenda items. If there's a large number of speakers, the board may limit the total number of time or reduce the time allotted for each speaker. All comments should address a matter related to Shenandoah County Public Schools. The school board will not hear public comments that involve a complaint about an individual staff member, personnel action, a student disciplinary action, a complaint about an individual student, or pending litigation. The school board expects each speaker to be courteous, modeling for our students how one can be respectfully disagree with other views. Speaker will address their comments to the school board and not to one individual board member. And our first speaker is Ann Weingart. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. I did my best to try to keep this under 3 minutes. I would like to ask for a little more time if possible.
Okay.
Dear school board members and residents of the community, my name is Ann Weinking, and I am a school counselor at Sandy Hook Elementary School. I have been a resident of Shenandoah County since 1977 and was a graduate from Strasburg High School, from James Madison University, and from Liberty University. I have lived in the town of Woodstock for over 25 years. I'm sharing this with you because I have a history in this community that I have grown to cherish. I have invested my life's work into this community as a customer service rep at the former printing plant in Strasburg, as a small business owner, as an adopted foster parent, and now as an employee for Shenandoah County Public Schools. This year, for my professional goal, I chose to focus on teacher morale because I saw the burden in the eyes and the words of my colleagues throughout the county. In mid-October, I did a staff morale survey, and 70% of the respondents rated themselves on the two lowest choices on the Likert scale, the lowest being ready to throw in the towel. As a mental health professional and a mandated reporter, I felt it was my due diligence to speak up and be the voice of my colleagues. There has been a silent pandemic that has been slowly emerging in our educational staff, and the symptoms consist of exhaustion, despair, helplessness, and frustration. The data that is often referred to when addressing school funds, new construction, resources, or new positions is that student enrollment hasn't changed enough to consider an increase in local taxes. The student enrollment data is indeed accurate because in 2010, the county public school enrollment was 6,287. In 2020, it was 5,772, and currently the enrollment is 5,633. However, this evening I would like to focus on other statistics related to the social, emotional, and academic needs of the students that make up these numbers. My hope tonight is to inform the public about the federal and state laws that require our public educational institutions to provide services to any child who is found eligible for specific accommodations or special education services, specifically 504 plans and individual education plans, commonly referenced as IEPs. In 2014 and 15, as a whole, our schools provided 504 accommodations to 72 students. In just 2 years, that number jumped to 233% to 240 students. From 2017 to today, that number has increased another 58%, which means that 381 total 504 plans are currently being implemented, managed, and tracked by our educators. I was able to obtain some data in regards to IEPs as well. In 2010, 12% of our student population, which was 752 students, had IEPs and received special education services. In 2020, that number increased to 15.8%, which equates to 890 students being served with IEPs. I was unable to obtain the current number of students receiving special education services for IEPs for this meeting, but the data shows an upward trend. As I looked closer into what made up that data, I found some interesting trends. In our special education population, in 2010, we had 34 students with developmental delays, 46 students labeled with autism, and 71 with other health impairment. In 2019 and 2020, those numbers significantly increased. Developmental delays increased to 67 students, autism to 133, and other health impairment to 177. Our general education classroom and special education teachers are struggling to keep up with the legal requirements of outdated laws to provide adequate supports all of our students deserve. Here's a brief history of the laws I am referring to. In 1975, Public Law 94-142 was passed, which was called the Education for All Handicapped Children's Act. It was updated 15 years later in 1990 to become the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. This law has not been updated in 33 years, since 1990. Our world has changed dramatically over the past 33 years, and our allotted resources need to change with the times to address the current needs. I'm concerned that we can find funds to put Wi-Fi on school buses and to provide computers for every child in elementary school, but we cannot find the resources to hire more teachers, paraprofessionals, and sped support personnel. All of those positions are necessary to allow teachers to actually teach. Our general education teachers are not trained to be special education teachers, and unfortunately, when some of our student population is placed in a least restrictive environment, that means that they are being mainstreamed into general education classes. These children are not being best served because we do not have the resources or personnel to provide them with a program or a room they would benefit more from. This radically impacts the ability of our general education teachers to do what they are trained to do, which is to teach. Obviously, IDEA is not up for any revisions in the near future. So what can Shenandoah County School Board and Board of Supervisors do to support our educators and children in the meantime? Here are 3 items I would like to advocate for while you consider the school budget for next year. Item 1, consider building into the school calendar 2 teacher workdays each month, every other week. For example, either every Monday or every other Friday. This would give teachers the time they need to meet as a team and prepare lessons. This would not be a time for teachers to attend curriculum training, but specific time dedicated to lesson planning. Item 2, hire 3 full-time special education testing coordinators to conduct testing, prepare reports, and attend child study and eligibility meetings, 1 for each campus. Our SPED staff is overburdened with these duties and cannot keep up with those tasks and provide services required by law for the SPED students found eligible for IEPs. Item 3, make the student support specialist position permanent. This position has made a significant impact on the lives of our students and their families. Last year alone, this position assisted over 550 families in the county, helping them navigate the system and develop natural and community supports. In closing, I would like to thank each of you all for giving me the opportunity to speak and share these concerns with you. I would like to thank all the individuals who work in our schools. I see you come in early, leave late, take time away from your own families to make sure you are prepared to deliver a lesson to a classroom with a wide range of needs and abilities. You care for them, and I care for you. To you before me today, please consider giving our teachers time to plan and prepare so that we can retain good teachers. Let's not continue to run our schools in a reactive crisis mode, doing more with less. Rather, let's come together proactively and invest to be the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear anyone else? That was the only one that signed up for the pre-budget input session. Anyone else want to speak on the pre-budget for 2024? Okay, that's for the next part, correct, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. The next thing we will hear from the public is public and staff comments on agenda and non-agenda items. And I remind the audience the same rules apply which I shared with you a few minutes ago. Okay, the first speaker that signed up is Mike Richard.
Evening, board members. Thank you for letting me speak. Mr. Helsley, it's Mike Richter, just to correct you. There's somebody here tonight that I'd like to introduce that his speech is a little long, but he wanted some extra time, so I was rendering my time to him. He's a very intelligent young man from Signal Knob Middle School. His name's Chase Monahan.
Okay.
I'm rendering my time to him.
Okay, Chase Monahan.
It's a little bit intimidating.
Welcome.
Can you hear me well?
Go right ahead.
Hello, school board. My name is Chase Monahan. I am currently speaking at this meeting because I believe that some changes need to be made. The changes that I believe should be made are based on 4 different categories: respect, bullying, property damage, and maintaining discipline over the students. The first topic is respect. Students enrolling in SKMS are mostly rude towards each other. Students will constantly be disrespectful towards each other with no regards for the other person's feelings. People will insult each other, argue aggressively with each other, and disrespect others' privacy. These are all very common scenarios inside of the school of SKMS, which is not a thing you would want for your school. Unfortunately, I've been a victim of these three actions, and I have examples of all three. I've been insulted many times, and I'm not fond of that at all because it sorry. I'm not fond of that at all because it hurts mine and others' feelings when that happens to us. Insults to be limited and impossible put to a stop altogether. Because all it takes is a couple of words to build up a chain reaction that can trigger a fight. I have also been in aggressive arguments with others, and these arguments can happen randomly, even if I try to explain my intentions are good in a polite way to calm down the opposing student. These arguments seem to happen for no logical reason whatsoever. They can be started over the smallest things, and that is not healthy to be getting mad over small things, because doing that can cause self-control problems. And the last bit of respect I need to talk about is respecting others' privacy while trying to use the restroom. People will try to look over the stall, come up behind you while using the restroom, and will open the doors while trying to use the restroom. And I know you will ask why I didn't just use the lock, and the answer to that question is because all the locks in every bathroom are broken. I would have to use the restroom in the office because I can no longer use the student's restroom in peace. I would highly recommend fixing the locks and instituting respect of others' privacy. The second topic, bullying. Students like myself are constantly bullied by others at SKMS. We are mocked, insulted, punched, kicked, slapped, humiliated, and so much more. I am constantly bullied by a large group of students who will punch, kick, and mock me freely with no punishment. This has much to do with the teachers not watching what happens and not giving punishment, which I'll talk about later in the topic about discipline. I am mainly coming here to defend others from what I am currently going through. 7th graders have bullied me alongside the 6th graders, and I have my own important reason why this needs to be taken much more seriously than it already is. Back in 5th grade, I was constantly bullied by the same group. The bullying caused me to sink into depression, which led me to want to hurt myself and others, though I did none of this. The same group went up to a girl with anxiety issues and told her to end her own life. I tried to defend that girl, but others who are defenseless and can't stand up for themselves like I can. That is why I am blessed to have this opportunity. That concludes the second topic of bullying. The third topic, property damage. Students at SKMS are destroying property. A student destroyed a desk a month ago, and even earlier than that, a student told me he had knocked down 3 ceiling tiles. I went into the bathroom to check to see whether he was being truthful or not, and he was. Ceiling tiles were broken on the floor, there was urine on the floor, mustard, mayonnaise, and ketchup were all over the walls. Students have also broken other items like toilets and urinals. I believe that these students need to get a punishment for their actions had destroyed someone else's property. Students don't get punishment, at least for the classes that I'm in, and I believe that this plays a great role in the topic I'm about to discuss. That concludes the third topic of property damage. The last topic, discipline. Students are not disciplined whatsoever. They can get out of most situations trouble-free. For example, being hit multiple times. Students who have assaulted me in the past 3 months have received no punishment at all. All they have to do is beg the teacher not to report them to the office, and they get out punishment-free. A girl who's known for being rude, obnoxious, and an overall terrible person showed a video of her at lunch beating up a girl who has some emotional problems. That was the final straw that made me want to speak on these 4 topics altogether. But it is not just physical trouble that they can get out of. Verbal punishment can be avoided as well. All they have to do is beg a certain teacher to stay out of trouble, and they'll be okay with letting students who need the learning curve stay out of trouble, which I find a huge problem, because these students know that if they beg, they can get out of trouble. But some students really need the learning curve of getting in trouble for their actions. If they don't get this learning curve, it can cause some major problems in life, because they'll be used to the habit of begging to get out of trouble. When that doesn't work, they will be enraged. Students will be playing games on their Chromebook, and the teacher doesn't care. So students aren't getting the proper growth that they need to succeed in life. So the moral of this topic is that punishment is the key to more growth. That is everything I need to say. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Mr. Richard, thank you for giving up your time for that young man. Continue. Christy Monahan.
I'm not going to be as eloquent as my son.
Okay, I figured.
And if I could ask for a little bit of latitude, I really did try to keep it. I'm just about 15 seconds over.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. As a parent and as a citizen of Shenandoah County, let me start by saying I have the utmost respect for anyone who chooses to educate our youth. I started this year with hope. despite many warnings I got from parents and others. This hope was quickly extinguished upon the daily reports from my son of daily fights in the middle school and disruptive classroom behaviors. Some of the stories were so unbelievable to me that I would ask him to clarify, thinking that I missed a relevant part of his story. One story comes to mind where he said a student told a teacher that she was going to the library. Upon being told no by the teacher, the student said, "I'm going," and walked out of the class. When time came for parent-teacher conferences this year, his father and I were ready to get answers on why there were so many instances of disruption in the classroom and borderline dangerous bullying behaviors. Instead, what we left with were very heavy hearts for his teachers. Each one seemed to be trying their best to educate, but were deflated and felt they had no control over their students. This led me, as a parent, to take a serious look at my parent handbook that is signed at the beginning of the year. Starting on page 22 and running through page 48, several responses are listed for behaviors and even dress codes. I sent you all an email asking why many of these are not followed. In response to my inquiry, I want to say thank you to those who responded in any manner, whether that was by directly contacting me or looking for answers by talking with staff. In one of those conversations, I expressed my concern that one classroom was so disruptive that the teacher would give my son his assignments and allow him to go to the library to complete his work. It was the teacher's solution to allowing him to work away from the very chaotic classroom, and my son appreciated his effort. The teacher explained that my son's grades were very good and he could trust him to do his work without hurting his grades. This concerned me because I wanted to know how he was able to receive real classroom instruction. It appeared that my son was basically teaching himself. I recently learned that he is no longer allowed to go to the library. While I appreciate the understanding that every child does need classroom instruction, I believe that whoever spoke to the school administration missed a bigger issue. If a classroom is so disruptive that children cannot do their work or have classroom instruction, this is the issue that must be tackled first. Band-Aids will not work. Students are taught that their actions affect other people. Students learn throughout the year that caring for and helping others and working together can make school a positive place to learn. It is imperative that students, parents, guardians, teachers, and administrators work together to ensure a beneficial and successful experience for all. This is a statement out of your student handbook. They are wonderful words. They are not true. Teachers are insulted. Bullying and fights are a daily occurrence. Dress codes are not enforced. As a school board, the responsibility to fix these issues fall on your shoulders. You are the ones who write policy. The children and parents of Shenandoah County need you to put in place real solutions and standards. If you do not, the conditions will continue and at the cost of the education and mental health of our students in Shenandoah County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Mike.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Scheibe, Newmarket, Virginia, father of a kindergartner on the southern campus. I'm going to start off by reading a letter from somebody who couldn't make it tonight. Dear members of the Shenandoah County School Board, I apologize I could not be here in person with you this evening. However, I do wish to express some thoughts on the proposed policy for parents to review library books and materials. What's the big deal? The fact that there is an uproar amongst some library staff in the county speaks volumes to me. If every book and resource in our school libraries is fitting and proper for the ages of the students that attend, why is there any resistance? It is my understanding that this group will not have the sole authority to remove any materials from the libraries, but will comprehensively review materials and give feedback as to whether or not it is appropriate for circulation in the respective schools. I firmly urge each of you to support the formation of this parent advisory group and implement the policy. It is the right thing to do for our schools and most importantly, our children. Sincerely, Josh Stevens, District 1 Supervisor and parent of a child in the Southern Campus. So that's Josh's statement. Mine kind of piggybacks on that, but it also talks on a little bit about the budget. Oversight. Oversight is a big word. The school board, your job is to oversee what happens with the schools and the administration. Lack of oversight allowed our former superintendent to guide us into a $140,000 plus or minus hole because we applied for IRS tax credits we were not eligible for. Nobody can answer to that. Did anyone on that school board know? That's a very good question. Due to the timing and all the things where it was, I suspect that maybe some of them did know, but nobody talked about it. But the bottom line is, our budget now, the kids are in the school now, it's coming out of their budget to repay this. So that's a $140,000 hit that we could be using for other things. So oversight is important. Librarians need oversight too. I don't know how much money we spend each year on books to be put into the libraries, but let's just say we spend, $40,000 a year on new library books. Well, if even 10% of that is later deemed inappropriate or whatever, then we just spent $4,000 that could have went to something else. So I think library books or this policy should be in place, but I also think there should be oversight before the books are bought. And one more statement and I'm done. So, and there was a very nice librarian who came up here and very enthusiastically came up and, compared basically librarians to Santa Claus. We bring in the books are the gifts we put under the tree. Well, even Santa Claus confers with parents before he puts any gifts under a tree. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Charles Street.
Good evening. I hope everyone is well. Elected school board members, Superintendent Melody Shepard, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I would just like to comment on Chase. That took a lot of courage to get up here. I'm proud of it. First of all, I'd like to hope everyone had an enjoyable Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that the coming year will be successful in all aspects. I also like to mention the Principal Appreciation Week for all the principals. Second, it's come to my attention that some of the emails that have been in circulation, that one has needs to be, needs to be very difficult in saying that one individual needs to see more MB in the present school. Well, I'm sorry, that isn't enough for the one individual seems to get grease each time the squeaky wheel squeaks. It is also brought to my attention that there is insinuating that African Americans weren't allowed at Stonewall High School in 1959. Well, I'm sorry, but they weren't allowed in Central Strasburg either. This individual also stated that over 500 people fought for the name change. Well, I'm sorry about that. Over 6 times that amount were fought to keep the name. The people will finally get their voice in due time. Third, a person was quoted in the newspaper some time ago as to where this is going to end and where it needs to take a stand against the others who are trying to destroy the past. This person stated that changing the name of a school building will not improve racism in our county. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Stephen Eichmann.
Good evening, school board members, Ms. Shepherd. Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you for allowing me to share a few words this evening. We always want to lift up the weekly religious education with hope and praise. We as a community are willing to support the new board of directors that they have recently put into place as they fine-tune this program, making it a success, one student at a time. WRE also, in their teaching and their classes, they try to teach respect in their program. And that's important to know based on the information that we was just given by this young man that spoke just a few minutes ago. As far as the policy that was tabled to the February meeting needs maybe a little bit of thought. So some questions that I've been asking myself and such is that why is these library books with supposedly adult content surfaced all of a sudden and being exposed to underage students? Well, so I got to thinking maybe it might have a little bit because Jesus has recently been brought back into the public school system for those students that want to learn about him and get to know him. Now, if it is correct that these books are recommended to be read in SOL English testing, I don't know. That's a question I'm asking. That's what I'm hearing. So then it makes me want to ask the question, why are they not recommending maybe the 10 Commandments or maybe the Sermon on the Mount? Something that these children can absorb and carry with them a lifetime. These things are not educating the students. It's indoctrinating the students in one way or another. And I'll close with a statement from the great governor from the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis recently said, as they was heading back to school, he said, as students head back to their classrooms this fall, I'm happy to clear up any confusion that the media may have about appropriate curriculum. He stated that we will teach the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. CRT, sexualized content, and transgender ideology will not be accepted. The Florida schools will educate children, not indoctrinate them, and that is a prime role for other school boards throughout the country to abide by and follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ms. Dorothy Lamb.
Good evening.
Good evening.
There's been a great deal of discussion in the news and at the board meetings here regarding instructional reading and books available to students in the library and in the personal library of teachers. While policy allows parents to review the content of the material available to students, few parents have the time. The majority of parents believe that it is the duty of school personnel to review the content and only give approval if it is appropriate for minors. The vulgar content of some of the books has been addressed, but one must also consider the lasting impression and obsessions that some individuals develop after reading inappropriate material and the long-term psychological issues that become issues for society. The Zodiac Killer wrote letters to law enforcement, and it is believed to have been inspired by The Most Dangerous Game, a book about the hunt of humans. Mark Chapman killed John Lennon. His obsession was The Catcher in the Rye, and even wanted to change his name to its protagonist. Christopher Wilder, known as the Beauty Killer, abducted and raped 12 women. The Collector, a book about obsession and abduction, was found in his belongings. Leonard Lake and Charles Nigg were also believed to be inspired by The Collector, as they named a room and titled their plan after the novel's victim. Jeffrey Cox said he was inspired by the novel Rage after holding 60 hostage. Dustin Pierce, after a group hostage situation, was found in possession of the same novel. Michael Corneal, hostage taker and murderer, was also in possession of the novel. The Clock Orange Gang, a group of 4, duplicated the content of the book A Clockwork Orange. Brian Koberger, charged in the 4 Idaho murders, is believed to be obsessed with the Amityville horror due to significant similarities in details. Serial rapists and murderers obsessed with literature. Words are powerful, and literary works have lasting effect on our most vulnerable and impressionable students. Who are you creating with the books that you're allowing children to have access in our schools? Of the 13 criminals mentioned here, 7 were minors. Thank you.
Next speaker is Pastor Katie Godwine.
Madam Superintendent and Board, thank you for the time to speak with you this evening. First off, I want to thank you for the use of the Central High School cafeteria. I thank you on behalf of Shenandoah Alliance for Shelter, for whom I am on their board of directors. We were able to have our empty bowl soup supper for the first time in 2 years, and the use of that facility has just been a tremendous gift to us for 20 plus years. So thank you for opening the buildings to public organizations, nonprofits being able to use them. Secondly, I am thrilled to share with you that the Spring Forward After School program that has been sponsored by the Hamburg Brewerton Club, Zion Lutheran Church, and the Shenandoah County School Board is planning to start up on February the 2nd. I don't know what the significance of Groundhog Day is, but no doubt our dear Jane Perry, the director of the program, has something up her sleeves. We will be meeting every Tuesday and Thursday from 4 to 6 out at Zion Lutheran Church, and we are grateful for the contact that has already been made with Ms. Shepherd and the support that she has expressed with Mr. Lucas Long, Transportation Supervisor, and for Linda Hodge, for being willing to do boundary training, Director of Human Resources. We are grateful for the support that you have provided for us. Spring Forward started in the spring of 2008 on a trial basis with 20 students. And I was in the first meetings with Superintendent Rowland, who was not very hopeful for this program. But we exceeded all of his expectations and developed a strong relationship with the school board, and we are thankful for the partnership that you continue to provide. Finally, weekday religious education is happy to announce that our teacher had a healthy baby, Riley Kristen. She and her husband welcomed, and she is on maternity leave right now, and our teacher for the time until she's ready to return is Cindy Cover, and Kathy Rivers continues as our assistant. We are thankful for the fine leadership they provide the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Katie. Brandy Roots has a public comment section, and I will recognize her to speak at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Elsley. This letter came to me from a Northwark Middle School student who could not be here tonight, so I'm going to read this, and bear with me, it's on my phone here. Dear School Board, I have been judged for what I look like, and when I tell my counselor Mrs. Zimmern, and she said she would tell my principal, Mrs. Newman, but these guys did not get in trouble for it. I have been bullied and picked on for my hair, for my looks, and I'm done with it. I want to be able to walk into that school and not get judged for everything. And I want kids to not be bullied, not to be bullied by others and be disrespected by others, because people want to be here and have a good day. And for some, just to say mean, hurtful things to them and to make it there to have a bad day, and worse, that they might all be ready to be, you never know what a person could be going through. And I want people to be happy and not be sad. They need to be happy. They deserve better. They need better. People want people not to bully, because it is not okay, and it's not okay to judge others for anything. I hope this stops people from being bullies, not to be disrespectful to others, to hurt others, not to bring hateful things around others, and not to take your anger or hatefulness out on people, because they deserve better. And in my opinion, you deserve better. There's a lot of bullying around the school, and the teachers are not doing anything about it. Unless the kids tell the teachers about it, and most of the kids don't want to tell the teachers about it because they feel like nothing will ever get done. Any above it, so, let's see. Anything about it so the kids that bully and picked on others don't get in trouble for it. And I think it needs to stop, because it's unnecessary, because just it, and it needs to end now and right now. Please stop the bullying and people getting picked on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the audience that would like to speak that did not sign up? Okay. Thank you. Okay, going on, colleagues, number 3, the approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
That's a move.
Motion made by Ms. Ruts. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Keller. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passed 6-0. Okay, moving on to section 4, instructional agenda. Alternate education fall semester summary by Dr. Heingardner.
Good evening. I'm going to ask Ms. Armitrout if she would join me. All right. Mr. Helsley, board members, and Ms. Shepherd, thank you for giving me a chance, or giving us a chance this evening to let you know and kind of give you an update on our alternative programs that we have currently running. We'll start just an overview of what we have. We have the Alternative Suspension Center, and I'll show you some data around that, talk a little bit about that. We have the Bridge program, which is a half-day program, and we have the Restart program, which is an evening program. All 3 of these alternative programs function at Triplett Tech. So we'll start with the Alternative Suspension Center. The rationale, the purpose around this is in those bulleted points. It's a supervised space for students to work on academics while serving suspension from school. This was implemented 4 or 5 years ago in an effort to, instead of students being put out of school to stay home, which is something that still happens, but this is another alternative to that, where they're out of school, but in a place where a teacher can help them with their schoolwork. It's located behind Triplet Tech, and we have a consolidated bus route that runs from Strasburg to Triplet that picks up students. The program runs from 9 to 2 because the bus driver is also a regular route driver that needs to run morning and afternoon route. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of data. I'm going to start with an overview first. The numbers that you see there, when you look at this is from the fall of this current school year, so the semester we just finished. We have 3,183 middle and high school students. And so the breakdown there, you can see the percentage of those students then at the middle school and at the high school that were assigned at least one day to the alternative suspension center. So that's what that 3.3 and 2.4% means. One of the things that I try to highlight along with this is I think one thing that's important to remember is about 95% of our students come to school every day and they do exactly what they're supposed to do. And we have amazing kids in our county. That would show itself in the data as we look through. Another data point that I think is important to look at is the number of students assigned by the high school and by the middle school. And so you can see there in first semester we had a total of 88 students that were, or 88 incidents that students were sent there. Sometimes it's the same student. But you can see some of the recidivism rate. Now that's not 100% accurate. And it's accurate, but it's not 100%. Does it tell the story? And that's part of issue with managing student behavior is not, just here's the book and you just do it. It's much more to that. But one of the things that you can see from the high school data, 43 students were sent there for one day. Only 3 of the students returned for a second day, and only 2 of those students returned for a third day. But to make my point clear in terms of understanding that may not say the whole story, one of those students who are in the 43 may have gotten in trouble a second or third time, but they were given out of school suspension. Okay, so anytime you look at data, it's important to understand the whole story around that because it's really difficult to know all the nuances of a number. So I just wanted to point that out. You can see the average number of students daily, and then you can see the grade level data. And you can see this is we did this for however many years we did it, you can rest assured that 7th, 8th, and 9th grade is going to be more of those students. Those are tough school years for children. So that's holding true as we've seen in the past. All right, Ms. Armstrong.
If I can just add one more thing to ASC that Dr. Heingardner was talking about. Sorry, that he was talking about. Just reviewing the data from last year and looking. Last year at this time we had 92 students that had been assigned for first semester. So we're right around there. We do have a significantly larger number this year that have been a one-time visit and haven't been back so far. So I do think that shows a little bit that our administrations at the schools are trying things within their buildings, before they're sending kids to us. And then I think it also accounts for, what Dr. Heingardner was just talking about with students that we're seeking other disciplinary actions as well. So one of our other alternative education programs is Bridge. Bridge is primarily designed to be a credit recovery opportunity for kids. It could be a student who maybe has transferred in, didn't have the credits of their same age peers, so we're trying to allow them to catch up. Or it might be a student who is having difficulty being able to function in a, just a normal school setting. Could be kids who are, having issues with mental health concerns, and being in a school, regular school setting is overwhelming to them. So there's a wide variety of reasons that kids are placed in the Bridge program, but it is a process where the parents do refer. We have a committee that meets and, we determine whether that student is eligible and have the opportunity for those students to earn credits and kind of gain more credits than they would in just the 4 classes that they would take at their home school. Right now we do or did have first semester 1 middle schooler, but the students in the Bridge program are primarily 9 through 12. We do have Apex classes that we can offer for middle school students, but that usually is a pretty extreme situation, for us to have a middle school student in the Bridge program. We do have 2 instructors, and these students do follow the same transportation as those that come to Triplet. So we can have students that are either half day in the morning or half day in the afternoon. We also do have a number of students this year who have been able to have a combination of both, being able to utilize programs at Triplet, but also being able to offer the credit recovery opportunity, which is nice because a lot of students who struggle with credits in the 9th and 10th grade year, that opportunity to attend Triplet and get them a trade and more opportunities for the future sometimes is limited for students who then can't, they just don't have room in their schedule because it takes up 2 blocks. And then the last program that we have in terms of alternative education is our Restart program. Restart program is a program that was started to provide educational services to students in lieu of expulsion. We used to have the 0 tolerance, for different infractions in school. And, the research shows that it's not great for kids to be out of school for 365 days. So the Restart program kind of came out of that necessity, and we utilize the instructors 2 days a week. Student expectation is that they will work on their online programs 5 days a week and then get that little support that they might need those 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. You can see that at first semester we had a total of 7 students in Restart. 1 9th grader, 2 10th graders, 4 11th graders, and then we haven't had any seniors up until this point. Out of those 7, 3 of those students successfully transitioned back to their home school, whether it was full-time to their home school or it was a partial day of Bridge and a slow transition back into the regular education classroom. So currently we have 4 students for 2nd semester in the Restart program. Any questions?
One thing I will say too, just to add real fast, is that the success rate of the Bridge program, the success rate of the Bridge program is phenomenal. The teachers that are there do a terrific job with those students. Now granted, it's a very small class, but nonetheless, these are typically students who are over age and undercredited. They're going to reach their 18th birthday long before they have enough credits to graduate. And these instructors, and we've been very blessed over the past few years with terrific instructors, those kids come out ready to graduate, so passing SOL tests and so forth.
Okay. Give me an example of a kid that has been assigned to the Alternative Suspension Center. An example, what did that kid do?
That's a good question, because as you know, it can be very nuanced. It could be something very minor, but they've done it enough times, it's.
Okay, so it could be that it's about the multitude of times
It
it's
could be.
been done.
It could be about the severity. Here, the classic example that I can use from my experience, when I was in the building, a student who brought snuff to school was kicked out of school for 3 days. There wasn't any discussion, you were out of school. And we all knew that that student's just gonna go home and use snuff more, because he can be at home with no supervision. That's a classic, perfect example. Instead of that, that student will be assigned to alternative suspension center. So that's, you know, hundreds of reasons why they could be.
Okay, now when they get there, do they have to, you know, write a narrative? Why am I here? You know, type experience, or is it just, you know, let's do what we got to do?
So that kind of depends on the infraction and the student. With some of our new writing emphasis this year, like writing some of those things, you know, more restorative justice approaches have definitely been something that they've used. We also do utilize some of the other educational options that we have, like the school subscribes to a program called Third Millennium, which is a program that works through different types of, you know, infractions, whether it's alcohol, whether it's, you know, the normal ones you would expect to get kicked out of, you know, the drugs, alcohol, things like that, vaping. But it also does conflict resolution. It also does, you know, respecting authority. So we do and have in the past utilized some of those things as well. Honestly, it all really just depends on how long the student is there. You know, sometimes we only have a student for a day, you know, and they come with lots of work. When they come to alternative suspension, so sometimes we may not have that extra time for, you know, the extra, you know, kind of enrichment opportunities. However, you know, the kids who are 3, 5, 10 days, it certainly gives us an opportunity to be able to work with. And my 2 instructors that are there really do a great job of trying to work with kids and get to the, you know, kind of heart and root of, you know, what's causing the issues.
Okay, I'm gonna beat this horse here because I've talked about it before, and I want to say it again. Is that I think kids need to understand cause and effect, and I think kids need to be able to predict outcomes, and when they can do that, then I think they can have some success. If they do that poorly, then, you know, those are some of the kids that you're seeing here. So anything you can do that's going to help manifest that with those kids, I think can be to the plus side.
Well, and I will say that our lead instructor, Mr. McClurg, he really does a great job of, like, he does follow-up home visits, you know, sometimes for the kids who have been repeat offenders. He will visit the home schools and see how the kids are doing after, you know, it's been a long gap where they haven't been assigned. You know, he sends cards, you know, he really goes above and beyond trying to make that relationship and make that connection, you know, with those kids that we do see repeatedly.
Go ahead.
So I understand why in the ASC program, it's a short term, and they have classes they're taking, and they can follow up on assignments and so forth. The restart is different, right? I mean, there has to actually be a curriculum that is designed for them and that they have to buy into. Is that correct? I mean, can you tell me a little bit how?
Are you talking academically or behavioral?
Academically. Yeah.
So we utilize the same program in Restart that we do in the Bridge program, which is the online Apex program.
Okay.
So we work with the homeschool school counseling department and to look at, you know, the graduation progress of the student. And the big thing that we really try to focus on, and I really try to focus on, is, you know, anything that we're assigning the students, that it is, you know, a lot of times courses that are a little bit easier to accomplish online. For example, economics and personal finance is something that we already teach virtually through Virtual Virginia. and, you know, supplement it with the EverFi program. So that's something that, you know, it is very similar and an equivalent.
So that could lead to a GED kind of a thing, because.
Well, all of the classes that are offered in Restart are classes that they receive credit for towards graduation. In the Bridge program, we do have some students who work towards the GED, but at this point, in the 4 years that we've had Restart, we have not had any students work towards the GED.
Okay.
So usually, we've had a couple, I think 6 students over the last 4 years who have graduated out from the Restart program, where they've been assigned, and at their time that they've spent during their suspension, they have finished their coursework and graduated. All of the other students, the plan, and they have, you know, worked on transitioning back in to.
But each of the Restart students has basically a curriculum that's been designed for them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's one of the things we do in the enrollment meeting, to make sure that what they're getting is going to keep them on track for what their plan is to transition back into their home school.
Got it. Thanks.
And that's a really good question, and a good point of emphasis right at this point is these are exactly the kind of programs that helps us have a high graduation rate. Because every class that we try to get kids to take is purposeful. There's a reason for it. It's not just classes to kill time. It's leading to graduation. So that's an important piece of it too.
I do think another positive to some of the aspects of the Restart program is some of our students that we see who have gone in front of the superintendent and, you know, have the situation of in lieu of expulsion. You know, it does provide an opportunity for them to get some outside services that they and their family need, that have kind of led to some of these circumstances and situations.
Do you have the numbers for the last couple years that you could provide on these?
On Restart, or yes?
All of them, yeah.
Yes.
I
I have the very first, I just don't have COVID years.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay, and I appreciate that.
Because we didn't run the programs, you know, during the pandemic, so.
Yeah, everybody was in trouble during the pandemic, correct?
Yes.
So the other thing is do you have the numbers broken down by the schools in which sends them? Okay.
Yes. And I also have the numbers broken down for infraction type.
Thank you. That was another question. So with these numbers, you know, you mentioned that, you know, things being done, the numbers were a little lower or about the same. With that, Mr. Herrengarter, that also could play into, I mean, you're correct. Every number that we get across this board, comes across this board, always has a different story to it. There's always like a pancake, no matter how flat, there's another side to it. But this could also, listening to comments this evening, you know, things we aren't referring to as well. You know, are these numbers tied to any state funding, anything from the state of Virginia that we are monitored for, or anything of that nature?
Well, I don't think there's tied to any funding, but we do have to turn in the discipline report at the end of the year that has how many kids have been suspended, how many kids have been out of class, all of that. There's in fact, when they put it in the system, which is the newest, this new system is not very user friendly, but it asks all the questions that you have to put in there and basically generates a report.
Is that something that they put emphasis on at the state, or, you know, or is it just, I mean, the state collects so much data on absolutely positively everything, and, you know, depending on who comes in and what initiative, I'm just curious if there's any punitive damage for us in some way, shape, or form, or if there's a, you know, you need to do better, or a ranking that says, hey, you know, you need to fix this, or what, you know.
Well, I mean, I don't know that there are sanctions. I've never known of anybody getting any sanctions for it. But it is monitored. One of the things that I know that they emphasize is that there shouldn't be disproportionality in the data, or if there is, there should be very good reasons. And by that I mean a subgroup of students shouldn't be suspended from school more than other students.
Right.
And so they definitely monitor that. But I've never heard of anybody having any sanctions or losing any money or anything like that because of it. but that is definitely something that they monitor and emphasize.
So discipline isn't part of our school accreditation, but it does show up on our school quality profile for each of our schools individually. So,
I think really some of the most powerful, I guess, actions that you could use from this data is really, being able to recognize these students and plan proactively as they return. And that's been a huge focus this year of, how do we help these kids successfully transition with the supports in the school system once they have been in any form of outplacement, whether it's a long-term, in a residential facility, or whether it's, just a day or two, an alternative suspension. How do we help kids be more successful as they re-enter the environment?
Thank you, both of you.
Any other comments for these experts?
I'll go ahead real quick.
Yes, sir.
I heard a report or two about the Alternative Suspension Center, which I'm happy about, and it looks like these numbers back that some students who went there said afterwards that they never want to go back. So I think that's partly because of the way that the class is conducted, and I think that's a good thing that you go there and you never want to go back there. So I was happy to hear that.
And it's a balance, because I encourage you to stop in someday. It's not a very, it's a cinder block wall, concrete floor, which that's what it is. But the instructor is he's a good man, and he tries to build a relationship with these kids. And that's what behavior management is relationship. And
The only thing I would like to add, if you get a student as he mentioned, that didn't want to go back, they may be a good tool, and the instructor may use that to talk to these students. They will probably listen to someone near their age than someone my age at 71. And, they learn through the program and use those as motivation.
the word travels.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, both.
Thank you.
All right, continue on to 4.2, first semester SOL results. Mr. Hensley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ms. Shepherd, tonight I'm going to share the fall preliminary assessment data. In other words, it's not final. It's just our first set of tests that we took in the first semester. At the beginning of the fall, we shared our finalized data with you that you can see where our performances were, and we expressed where our concerns were at that time. This graph here shows our high schools, and the red line is for the math, history, and science performance, so the 70% that they have to reach, and then the 75% is for English. We're still concerned about science and history, and we're currently working on that. Our principals, one of the expectations that we have is that our principals are consistently meeting with our teachers and working through planning with our teachers. We're currently going through academic reviews for some of our schools. And as we were going through those academic reviews, a lot of the same things come up, where we're looking at, does the verb match what we're actually doing in class? Are we actually doing what's in the curriculum framework very specifically that the student is learning? So those are things that we're looking at, and we see a gap there, and we're currently working on that right now to help bridge that. You'll notice that we have made some small gains. I think I flipped the graph backwards for some reason. Usually it's like the previous year, then the current year. I did the current year, then the previous year, but we do have some growth in areas that's positive. We can see the work that we are using during this first semester that it's working, but it's also, like Mr. Heingartner said, data. When you look at data, it's also numbers of kids that actually took the test this round too. So that plays into it also. When you look at middle school, so this year is the first year we gave the assessment in a semester for our students. So I couldn't really compare like high school fall to fall. I went ahead and said, okay, this is the fall of 22. What did we do in the spring? What did it look like? And how close are we on par with that? So as you look at the data in history and science, we do see that we have some growth in science and history places. Other places we may be lagging behind. And that's where we had discussions with our principals. We talked about the curriculum framework, we looked at lesson plans, and we're moving forward. Right now, we're planning to get teachers together to do a half-a-day planning to work on curriculum assessments. We're also looking to work with other individuals that's similar to us, such as Paige, Culpeper, that's in Region 4, that may have the same experience problems with science and history. So we're working on that also. Additionally, as a division, we're looking at CARES funding to secure tutoring for our students that parents can sign up, and we're working through that. Ms. Proctor, our CARES guru, is working on securing the tutoring for our students. Questions that you have?
Did they redo the social studies and science test this past year?
So the science was on the old new standards this coming spring.
So it's the same test that we've been giving?
For the science this fall.
Okay.
Spring will be different.
Okay.
It'll be the new standards.
Are there any testing for reading, handwriting, anything of that nature?
The English, or when you go back to when you look at English in the high school, that would be, reading would be involved in that, but not handwriting.
Middle school,
At the end of the year,
at the end of the year.
yes. It's a year-long course. Our students test at the high school because they're on semesters. They're on 4x4.
Well, all right. What do you attribute our numbers in history and science to?
Going through academic review right now, focused at the curriculum framework, that we need to pay close attention to the verbiage and the actual specific content that students may be learning. Like, we may take it way beyond and not work on explicitly what the curriculum framework may say. So it's refocusing our area, and that's every academic review we've done. We did 2 earlier, we just did 2 today, this morning, and a lot of it comes back to the curriculum framework.
So in other words, a social studies teacher, let's say, is spending a week, 2 weeks on one topic, and it is only being tested maybe with 2 or 3 questions.
That could be.
In as opposed to, dedicating more time to another topic that is much broader.
Yes. Or we could spend on that topic a lot of time going way in depth.
Right.
Where we don't need to go as far in depth. It's more of a, here it is, we learn it, we can move on. So that's something that our principals are looking at when they're planning.
Yeah, and as Mr. Hensley said, actually looking at that verb that is associated with that standard. So if it says define, we need to know how to define whatever that concept is. But if it says analyze, then we have to go steps further so that the student's able to analyze that concept.
Especially in science, vocabulary, making sure vocabulary is very specific even within the lesson plan.
Other questions? Thank you. Okay, moving on, number 5, information agenda. Ms. Shepherd, information by school board member, code of conduct.
Yes, so members of the Shenandoah County School Board are encouraged to abide by a code of conduct to ensure positive, respectful, and ethical interactions in all manners of deliberation that come before them. So at the last school board meeting, we had the school board code of conduct on the consent agenda. We brought it forward today. Individual school board members may elect not to sign the school board code of conduct, or they may elect to sign it or refrain from signing. The choice is up to each individual school board member. The document that is before the school board is the code of conduct, and it's has 12 items attached to it. So it'll come up under the action agenda item for approval.
Okay, thank you. Going on. Number 6, action items. 6.1, do I hear a motion to approve the revised program of studies that was presented us earlier, I reckon it was last year, for 2023-2024.
I I move to approve the revised program of studies for the 2023-2024 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Gutschall. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Keller. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes. Motion carried by a 6-0 vote. Going on to 6-2. Do you hear a motion to approve the personnel that was presented to us earlier?
I move to approve the personnel list as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barlow. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes. Motion carried 6-0. Going to 6-3. The capital improvement plan for 24 through 28. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I move that we approve the capital improvement plan for FY 2024 to 2028.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barlow. Discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes. Motion carried by a 6-0 vote. 6-4, committee assignments for 23. Do we hear a motion to approve the committee assignments?
I so move.
Motion made by Ms. Roots to approve the committee assignments for 23. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Keller. Discussion. I think most people agreed to serve what you did in 22, and I appreciate that. Roll call vote.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes. Motion carried by a 6-0 vote. Moving on, 6-5. The school board member code of conduct. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the SCPS code of conduct for school board members for 2023 as presented.
Motion made by Ms. Walsh to approve it. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion.
Wait,
Yes.
second by,
Mr. Keller.
I'm sorry, Ms. Jeff. Yes, discussion.
I should first, I mean, it's labeled Shenandoah County Public Schools Code of Conduct. However, it is actually the Virginia School Board Association's board code of conduct for school board members. There's a few of them the things that I disagree with. One being respectfully, we hire Mrs. Shepherd. She has power. I'm not going to delegate my authority to the administration. Whatever my authority is. The other one I have issues with is that by law, I'm required to take training. It says that such as those sponsored by my state and national school board associations. I took a wonderful training through George Mason University for budgeting. This is just again, another spot where the Virginia School Board Association, I think, interjects some sort of power. We went to vote on this. The reason I brought it up is, I'm not sure it needs to even be on the agenda. It could be presented privately. If you want to sign it, great. But our perception of how important this document is, and like I said, it's sponsored. The one I got is by the VSBA. So, that, I just wanted to clarify that. If we want to sit and discuss at a later date, ones that suit us, I'm okay with that, but I will not be signing this one.
Okay,
Thank you.
other discussion? Dennis?
Yes. I've taken oaths in my life. I take them very seriously. I take this one seriously as well. After the start of the discussion last week, I want to thank Mrs. Rutz for bringing this to our attention because I did go through these 12 items, and I feel that the item or that the code is flawed. I find that I cannot, in good conscience, sign it. But before letting that go, I think it's incumbent on me to explain to school board members why. Because this is not a knee-jerk reaction against Virginia School Board Association. It's merely my reaction to what I think is a flawed document that I will not put my signature to. So bear with me. I'll try to be as quick as I can, but I want to make a case. So you have in front of you the 12 I wills that have been developed for us by the VSBA, and I'm going to discuss very, very quickly some of my problems. Number one, it says that that I'll have integrity in all matters and support the full development of all children and the welfare of the community, Commonwealth, and nation. One of the things I'm concerned about is that we have gone too far afield in considering the entire development of children, and we have dissipated a lot of our educational focus onto other things. And we have gotten into positions where we are coaching students this, students are involved in other things. We're looking for different problems of students that aren't educationally related. And so I would like to see something that said that, I can sign something that says I will develop and display integrity in all matters and support the full educational development of all children in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Number 2 and number 3, you'll be happy to know that I can find no problem with those. Number 4, I'll make policy decisions based on available facts and appropriate public input. Well, there are a number of items I'm going to make my decisions on, and they're not just available facts, but there are discernible facts, there is responsible public input, and there are numerous other objective and subjective considerations that I'm going to make before I make decisions, not limited to those or what somebody thinks their particular the available facts are. Number 5. I'll delegate authority to the administration. I would like to insert the word appropriate authority because a blanket, something that couldn't be interpreted as a blanket delegation of authority, I think gets one into trouble. Number 6, I'll encourage individual board member expression of opinion and establish open communication process within the community is the way I would say it. This is that I will establish a two-way communication process with all segments of the community. If the KKK or the Nazi Party came here, I do not think it would be incumbent upon me to open a two-way communication process with them. So I withhold my will to communicate with various segments of the responsive community. Number 7, I'll communicate. Did I do? Yes. Communicate in accordance with board policies, public reaction and opinion regarding board policies and school programs to the full board and superintendent. I'm not sure that I have an obligation to share with all of you public reaction and opinion regarding school board policies and school programs. We'd be here 24/7. I don't think we want to do that. And to the full board and superintendent. There's no reason why I can't mention it to other members, by the way, rather than just the full board. And so this seems to me a big overreach and kind of something that would never be able to be enforced anyway. Number 8, I will refrain from using school board position for personal partisan gain Oh, okay. Number 9, I'm good. Did I skip 8?
I think you did.
Okay, sorry about that. It's 8 I have a problem with. I will bring about desired changes through legal and ethical procedures, upholding and enforcing all laws, state regulations, and court orders pertaining to the schools. I will strive to bring about desired changes through legal and ethical procedures, working within the structure of the laws and the state regulations. Enough said. Number 9, I have no problem with. Number 10, I would strike entirely. I will respect the confidentiality of privileged information and make no individual decisions or commitments that might compromise the board administration. If somebody comes to me and talks to me about sexual predator or sexual deviancy or something like that that's happening, I do not feel that I will be able to respect that confidentiality, and I would have to make an individual decision that I would have to come forward at that point. So I find that one something I could not sign in good conscience. And number 11, I do not like the passive tense that I will be informed about things. I will inform myself of current educational issues through research, keeping current with issues, being aware of extant policies, curricular guidelines, and regulations. And thank you very much. I don't need national school board associations to tell me what those points of view are. And number 12, I declare that my foremost concern on the board is to maximize the teaching and learning experiences for all pupils in Virginia. With that having been said, that's something I will be glad to sign and hand in when others decide to sign this code of conduct. But I can't sign the one that's been provided for us by the VSBA.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barlow?
No.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
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 Ms. Roots?
No.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Helsley?
Yes. Vote carried by a 4-2 vote. Okay, moving on. The superintendent's monthly report that's provided to you. Any questions for Ms. Shepherd?
I have just a couple of statements.
Yes.
In December, we successfully completed the first semester of the 2022-23 school year, and then on January the 5th, we started the second semester. And I would like to wish all of our students and staff a great semester. And then I would also like to thank our transportation department, our first responders, and our law enforcement for responding to the accident on Fisher's Hill on Monday. January the 9th, the responders assessed the students for injuries and made sure that all of the students were accounted for. We transported 4 students to a hospital to be assessed, and they were released that evening. We are grateful that the driver and none of the students had major injuries. That's all I have.
Any questions about the monthly report? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the conclusion. Board member comments. Who would like to start, or you want me to call?
I'll go first. I just have 2 quick things. I also want to thank all the principals and assistant principals. I don't think many people who aren't in the school system understand all they do on a daily basis. I would lump a couple other groups in there, instructional coaches and that kind of thing, because they're never recognized because they don't fall into a specific category. But they are so important for instruction in the county. And for those of you who are parents, you probably got your first report. If your kid had library this week, you got a report sent home of what library books they checked out. So, because I did. And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow.
In the Roman Empire, Cicero used to end every speech by saying Carthage must be destroyed, because he believed if Carthage wasn't destroyed, Rome would never grow. And eventually Carthage invaded Italy and pretty much destroyed it until the Romans finally got some backbone and destroyed the Carthaginians and Hannibal. So my comments have been in the past and will continue to be to stress the importance of us regaining our footing in the fields of discipline and decorum in our schools. The superintendent is dedicated to that. The staff is fully able to oversee it. The principals want to make it happen. It's just really, really, really hard to do. And I am encouraging each of us not to let the standard slide, as it is difficult to do, but to every day keep up with what I think is the most important thing, is consistency in how discipline is enforced and how dress codes are enforced. And every study I've ever seen indicates that the more positive, healthy, fair that environment is, then the academic achievement follows. And so I think that's our basis. So as Cicero used to say, Carthage must be destroyed. My mantra will be that Shenandoah County Public School discipline and decorum must be improved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutschall.
I think after what we heard tonight from the speakers, that we need to do a lot of evaluating and reflecting on what we're doing every day, what's going on inside the buildings, because clearly there's some issues going on that we need to address. I'm glad that people have come forward. Brandy and I mentioned it vaguely last month, and there's definitely a lot of progress to be made. And I think the best way to begin that is by addressing it and trying to do something about it. So I'm grateful for those who came tonight to speak on the bullying and the disrespect that we all know about to a certain extent, but some of the details really eye-opening. So I think we need to get to work on trying to solve some issues and resolve the disrespect that the teachers are feeling, that students are feeling. And I think all those factors lead up to things that can help increase our test scores and increase the respect level and discipline level, but it all starts with the bullying, and something we've got to start on.
Ms. Ritz.
Yes, I would like to use my few minutes here to ask that this board open up comments and a discussion on two things. One is regard to discipline and how we notify parents. I can tell you now, I've got a child that when she got lunch detention for talking too much in class. I got a notification, and this is an 8th grader. And when she was doing homework in somebody else's class and got a lunch detention, I also got an email on it. The thing is we talk about discipline, but I want to know how we notify parents and when we notify parents. How often, if my 6-year-old is sent to the think room for some downtime, or he's just been out of control, I want to know that. I would want to know that so I can have a conversation. We can't expect parents to, buy in to discipline if they don't know there's a problem. So I would like for that to be discussed. The other part of it is our policy when it comes to, we were talking about alternative eds and things like that. Some of those actions to get a kid there are egregious, and sometimes it will involve law enforcement. I still believe parents still retain the rights of their children, even when we drop them off at the school board or at the school door. So what I would like to have a conversation about is if we have those students that have done something such as be caught with marijuana or something that's going to grab them a charge, especially fighting, assault. Yeah, we charge kids with assault. That parents, we bring those kids in, we stop what we're doing, and we call the parents immediately so they can be not only a part of the conversation, find out what's going on, if there's any legal procedures, anything else of that nature. So we save ourselves not only from a he said, she said conversation, which could lead to a law enforcement, a legal battle, but parents still have the rights to their kids. I mean, I know that the schools have, something's called in loco parentis, where we act in absence of the parents, but I'll be honest with you, I don't want control of 5,500 kids. And I don't want to see this board be subjected to a lawsuit or end up again like Fairfax County or Loudoun County. So I think some common sense, procedures, I'd like to look at them and see if we can fix some things that we need to fix. And lastly, our staff member brought up some excellent points, and I applaud you. Thank you for coming. Going into budget season, I'm just going to ask each one of you to take a strong, hard look at wants and needs and the difference between the two of them. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Keller.
I'm not going to quote Cicero. Although I will tell you that I learn something new every meeting, Mr. Barlow, and I appreciate that. But I would like to defeat Carthage, and I think that is a noble task. If I told you that I've come up with a way that we can do that could positively impact student achievement, attendance, not eliminate, but certainly curtail improper discipline in the classroom, improve accountability, and maintain that students understand consequences for their actions, I think you would be impressed with that. And I bring that up because I think those are all things that our coaches do. And I know that, we're getting ready to go into the budget season. I want to consider the impact that our coaches have on our students, our student athletes throughout the county, and I think it's pretty profound. So I hope that we can continue to support them.
Okay, I just have a few things. I want to, Ms. Shepherd mentioned about the bus incident, and if you read the local paper, and it even made in the DNR in the Harrisonburg. But if you haven't seen it, you can go online, or you can look at mine. The state trooper was confronting this young man coming off the bus and was asking for his name, and he got a smile from him. He just went through a bus accident. And whatever that trooper, and I mentioned to Ms. Shepherd, maybe we can recognize the first responders and this state trooper that went beyond the call of duty for 4 of our students and the driver. But that smile, it speaks volumes. The other thing I would like to say, Ms. Shepherd, do we know how many of our students are raised by grandparents, or their grandparents or their legal guardians in our system?
We don't have a count on the actual number, but it's quite a few.
As you know, I read in the paper there is a group headed, and they meet monthly, I believe. It may be a good one, have a speaker on that. Of course, we would talk about that. And Pastor Katie mentioned about Spring Forward starting up at Zion Lutheran Church, sponsored by the Hamburg Working Club, which I'm a member or whatever. I understand through the grapevine that one of the former students that may have been in 08, Wade Custer, is having some health issue, and I called the father, and he's hanging in there. And we recognized him last fall for the work that he's doing with our 5th grade instructors or whatever. And finally, 2 more things. Since the National Merit Scholarship, we participate in that?
We do. It's kids who do really, really well on the PSAT, those who do really well, and then take the SAT the next year. It's the top 3%. So we would let them know immediately if they were a National Merit Scholar.
I knew we would, and they need to be commended. And finally, since I'm really, I got 2 members that goes to North Fork on their basketball team, boys and girls. They both won a game at Shenandoah Valley Christian Academy. No, we hosted that. It may be the first time both of them won in maybe a decade. And on that note, I adjourn the meeting at 8:45. Have a good evening. Here, you can sign this.
I don't know if I'm going to yet.
You okay? You want to sign it, okay?
I don't know if I'm going to.
Andrew, you going to sign this? I'm not going to.